Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. Welcome to the One Perspective to Another podcast. I am your humble, gracious, highly favored host, A. Sanders, here with episode 117 of the One Perspective to Another podcast. And on this episode, I'm going to be talking about intentions. Shout out to the town business going in the background, because it wouldn't be a podcast without the town business in the background. But without further ado, shout out to all our sponsors. Shout out to everybody who's listened. Shout out to everybody who's reviewed, left 5 stars, left a comment, told 2 friends to tell 2 friends, and appreciate all the love and support and telling people to listen. I greatly appreciate it. If you're new listening, I hope you enjoy. If you're a continued listener, I hope you enjoy this perspective about intentions. This episode is about intentions. So without further ado, we're just going to hop right into it, as always, and talk about intentions. And the thing that sparked this for me the most this past week, when I do my podcast, I always take like the most interesting or the most questioning tidbit or perspective that I've gathered throughout the week, and I'm making my podcast because I just like to ask those questions and make sure that things are in order and make sure that people know what's going on in the world. Not only in the world, but my world as well. But this particular one is intentions. They're cool, but what are you actually showing? What are your actions showing? Because growing up back in the day, a lot of people would be like, oh, I didn't mean to, or it wasn't my intentions to do that. But there's a time and a place. Like we're all grown now. We're all adults. It's okay when you're a child and you're a parent, and I'm not a parent. I don't know these things, but you teach your child about responsibility. You teach your child about being accountable. You teach them about doing things that are important, so they don't have to be in those positions where they have to question, or you have to question their intentions, or if they want to clean up their room and like putting what do they call it, where you putting goals on top of stuff. But I say all that to say this, that there is always some sort of excuse, or this or that, or the I forgot, I didn't mean to, I'm sorry. And we all do that to a certain extent, but when it becomes repetitive and it's always the norm, those are the situations where not only we have to grow, but those people in those certain perspectives have to grow as well. Because you have to start being accountable. I understand that we all go through life. We all are dealing with different stresses. There's still millions of things going on in the world. But even if you can't do something, it's all about communication. This shit all boils down to communication. And I know it's difficult for some people to tell the truth and tell people how they're feeling and tell people what they're going through. But it's 9 times out of 10 more easier to tell those things, and people will be more understanding than you just being a ghost, or you just ignoring people, ignoring calls, ignoring texts, not responding out of fear. We got to stop living out of fear too. Just communicate like, hey, I know we were supposed to do X, Y, and Z this weekend, but I can't do that this weekend because I'm doing this, or I'm not feeling well. Like, it all goes to that people going back and forth with like mental health, and like it's okay to not respond, and it's okay not to do not to go out with your friends. Yeah, it's cool, but it's also cool to be respectful too. Like, I understand, like, there is a very fine line when it comes to mental health and it comes to like respect. And I get it. And I've been on both sides of the coin, but it's at a point now where if you say that you're going to do something, whether you forget about it, whether you mismanaged your money, like, there's still at the root of everything, there is a reason for it occurring and a reason for you not doing it. All you got to do is express what that reason is, whether it's a mental breakdown, whether you ain't got no money, whether you ain't got no time, whether you tired, whether you got your period, whether you ain't got no money, you got to go see your grandma, you got to go see your daddy, you just got married, you just got engaged, you got to watch a football game, whatever the fucking reason is, say it. It is that simple. Going back to previous podcasts, communication. I understand that shit happens, life happens. And I see it a lot on social media too, with all the, you ain't got to answer to nobody. But if this is your friend, if this is your family member, if this is your boyfriend, if this is your girlfriend, if this is somebody you talk to every single day, there is respect, a certain amount of respect in those relationships where you have to, not even you have to, you are required to be courteous to these people. You're required to give these people the respect, at least that. Because like the intentions in people wanting to be perfect and not telling it like it is, and I like I said before, I understand that. But if you got these relationships with these people and they are not just a coworker or somebody you met for the first time in a week, then fuck it. You ain't got to say nothing to them. But if these are people that are close to you, it's a requirement for you to be respectful to them, because you're wasting their time. You make plans with somebody and you don't hear something from them. They set that shit up for you to do that with you. They took time out of their schedule, took time out of their life to do that with you, for you, whatever the case may be. And it is your responsibility to say the reasons why not. If you disagree with me, you disagree with me. But for me personally, I just feel like it's a respect thing. It's a respect thing, because that, your intentions are cool, but what are you really showing? That's the name of this podcast. Your intentions are cool, but what are you really showing? If you always want a cat, like, somebody shouldn't have to keep asking you and you saying a different excuse every time for them to get the hint. Like, we got to stop with all that, oh, you should just know kind of shit, because we don't know. We got to start communicating. If you tell somebody that you like cars and they keep inviting you to car shows and you keep saying no, say why you don't want to go. And these are not all types of things, whether it's dealing with a relationship or dealing with family. Like, it could be just friendships. It could be family members. It could be your cousin. It could be anybody. Like, these dynamics have to apply to all situations. And if it's that important to you that you don't want to go, say why, so you don't have to keep wasting other people's time, because your intentions are not good in that sense. You're wasting people's time. And I know it's the inclusion and people going to go back and forth with the mental health and all that stuff, but like, I understand that side of it. There's quite a few podcasts about that. And it's just to the point where it's like, you, no matter what you're going through, no matter what anybody's going through in this world, whether you just had a fucking heart attack, whether you got brain surgery, you got an amputee leg, or whatever it is, you got diabetes, like, people are dealing with something every day. Everybody's dealing with something. So the least that you can do is be respectful to somebody. Your intentions are being good, but it's causing way more harm because you are being stubborn. You don't want to say why. You don't want to say this. You don't want to say that. You don't want to hurt people's feelings. But you ain't doing nothing but hurting both parties, because you over there on one side hella timid. The other person on the other side don't know what's going on. Just thinking willy-dilly's going on and everything's cool. But it's not like that. It is not like that. It's important that we grow. It's important that we set our boundaries with people in our world. If you get hurt, if you get assaulted, if you get mistreated, if you get outspoken for, you need to say something. Nobody's going to read your mind. And this isn't for everybody who's on the up and up and just everything is perfect. This is just real shit. And if you can't get there, then you can work towards it. Like, this is the end goal. This is the end game for you to be able to be accountable. Because when your intentions are cool, but once again, what are you showing? It's cool to look at. It's cool to window shop, but can you come in the shop and buy? Can you come into the room and have a conversation about what's going on? Can you come into the house and have a conversation about what's really going on? Can you go to your friend and tell somebody what's really going on? That's when intentions really get get down to the nitty gritty, and can you follow up? Can you be that person to actually communicate? Because everybody got an excuse. Everybody got a reason why not. But what's the reason for you to actually do it, for you to actually communicate, for you to actually change, for you to actually put in boundaries? It's nothing wrong if people can't, but you got to get to a level where you want to interact with these people, for these people. But you got to keep the same standards as for yourself as well. You got to make sure that you are accountable as a human being that you are. You got to make sure that you're doing the same thing that you're doing, that you're telling these other people that you want. You got to practice what you preach and be accountable for yourself. Take on your responsibility. Make sure that when you walk through this life, nobody can question you or ask you to default on anything that you've spoken or said or done. Because it's easier to go to sleep at night when you ain't got to deal with no fuckery, no bullshit, none of that just hoopla shit. Just stay on your P's and Q's and make sure that your intentions are cool. And make sure that you are showing just as much as you're telling, so nobody can break through your armor. Nobody can tell you that you're fake. Nobody can tell you that you're a phony. Nobody can tell you that you're full of shit. Make sure that your intentions match who you are as a human being, because when you get to that point and people don't care about you no more, people know that you a liar, people know that you just a flake, that's exactly what's going to be you. That's how people are going to perceive you. Yes, perception is not always reality, but if you keep living it, it might as well be. So make sure that you get on top of all of those things within you, with the people that you care about. Make sure people are held accountable. We all make mistakes, and it's okay. But it's better to be shooting 90% than what you asking people to do of yourself. You got to make sure that you shooting that 90% too. Like I said, you got to be shooting good too. We can't question everybody and not be shooting a good percentage ourselves. So make sure that you go forward into the week knowing to be accountable, to have true intentions. And if you do not have true intentions, do not put them into the world. Do not wish whatever your intentions are if you are not going to follow through. Because a lot of this shit just comes from self. The self-talk, the self-conversations like, do I really have it in me this week? Do I really got what it takes to do this week? If you don't, it's perfectly okay. Life is a fucking marathon. And we got to make sure that we're here for the complete marathon. But if you ain't got it this week, make sure that you build up today for tomorrow so you can do what you intended to do. And as always, it is just my perspective. That is this week's episode. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please let me know. But that's just the vibe this week. Make sure that your intentions are real. Make sure your intentions are strong. Because we going into some real fuck shit coming up. And I don't want nobody to be out here acting like they didn't know. So with that being said, as always, in the background playing right now is my sleeper. And we going to cut it off right here. And we'll catch you next week on the flip side. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. Tell two friends to tell two friends, and we'll catch you on the flip side. And I'm out.